welcome. On behalf of Shamira Media, my name is Samaria Hermiz, and welcome to today's show. I have two members of the Executive Committee of the Assyrian American Cultural Organization of Arizona here with me today, Ninorta Kasso and Neenort Khibier. Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Samaria. Thank you, Shamira Media, for allowing us to be here and share our organization on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So I personally have had the pleasure of working with both of you in the past. And I wanted to start off by asking, why did you guys decide to get involved, and why the Assyrian American Cultural Organization specifically?
Neenort, do you want to start?
Sure. So one of the biggest reasons that I joined with the AACO of Arizona, most importantly, was to not only make sure that I stick to my roots with my Assyrian heritage and culture, but most importantly is to give back what our parents sacrificed so much, and in some cases our grandparents. So this is minuscule compared to what they've done for us, and it is our time now to give back to our community, and hopefully that will impact not only today but the future.
Ninorta?
And thank you, Samaria. So I'm currently on the executive board as the vice president of the Assyrian American Cultural Organization of Arizona. I had been always involved within the Assyrian community since I was young, whether it was church youth groups or student associations. I was always doing something. And after I had gone back to the homeland in 2018, I wanted to do even more. And when I moved to Arizona, AACO was already a very well-known and established organization, and they were really doing some amazing things. So I joined the organization, I became a member, and eventually joined the executive committee, and here we are today.
Thank you both. So speaking of amazing things that the cultural organization is doing, you guys are hosting a census drive and a voter registration drive. Ninorta, can you give me a little bit more information on that? What date is that taking place, and what does it specifically entail?
Yes, absolutely. So we're kind of combining two things in one, because both registering to vote and the 2020 census are very important for Assyrian Americans, and their deadlines are both coming up. Registering to vote, the deadline is October 5th in Arizona, and then the 2020 census deadline is September 30th. So that is also coming up very, very closely. So this Saturday on September 26th, we are meeting at our office on 51st Avenue and 101. We can give you the exact address, but we will be there from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. helping people either register to vote or fill out their 2020 census. Whichever it is, we're there to help. We just ask that they bring valid identification, so that when we are filling out their registration information, it is done properly and correctly, and we're not having to send them back.
Okay, and can you tell me, so obviously very important, but can you tell the viewers, why is the census important? So I know a lot of people say, constantly talking about the census, people are going to knock on our doors. Some will even say it's so muskadanta, but why is the census so important?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to quickly touch on what the census is, and essentially it's just a count of all the people residing in the U.S. It is very, very important because once they find how many people live in the country, in the state, and narrow down to city, region, they can select how many representatives each state gets. They also have $700 billion in federal aid that gets distributed to the states for helping out with schools, emergency services, roads. In our case, essentially to provide senior care services if we want to do that for our Assyrian community, any Assyrian language services in the community, grants for community programs, whatever it may be. And another important thing that I would like to mention, that why the census is important, is SAFO Center here in Arizona has done a phenomenal job of working with Congress leaders and Senate leaders to work on the proclamation that recognizes the Assyrian genocide. So in order for them to plead our case, they have to have valid numbers, valid information to show this is how many Assyrians are residing in Arizona, in California, in New York, in Illinois, whichever state it may be. Proper numbers of our people need to be accounted for.
Absolutely. So you brought up a very good point. So we don't really have a direct number. And I believe 10 years ago, when the census data was published, Ninorta, you said that Assyrians accounted for how many people in the US? Was it
107,000.
107,000 in the United States of America, which obviously we all know is not correct, but it's reflective of, not everybody filling out the census.
And that number
So,
includes Assyrian, Chaldean, and Syriac. So that
okay,
that whole lump sum is 107,000 as of 2010.
okay. And so, Ninor, I want to go to you. Who has to respond to the census? Is it, per household? Is it everybody in the household? How does that work? Let people know.
Sure, absolutely, and thank you for the question. Essentially, I mean, you all have to respond. The whether it's the parents of the household, if it's an individual who is just single, they all have to respond, including any dependents, or if there is independence within that household. Everybody needs to respond in order to make this the most effective and the most efficient process for not only just necessarily Assyrians, Chaldeans, and Syriacs, but nationwide for as a whole for the general denomination of peoples here in this country. One of the things that that you had touched base on was that per our 2010 census, there was in combination Assyrian, Chaldeans, and Syriacs in the U.S. accounted for 107,000. And one of the reasons why that number is so small is that either individuals do not actually register or do not count themselves in the census, or they will write down something else. So therefore, they're allocating numbers. For instance, people will claim that they're white Caucasian, and by doing so, they are not providing the correct data in order for us to get the allocation of funds and help ourselves and help others.
Okay, so that's where it ties in. I know the organization was posting about marking other and writing in Assyrian or Chaldean or Syriac because that's all, to my understanding, falling under the same bucket of Assyrian. It's all falling into the same bucket. Okay.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. And what are some myths about the census that you guys have come across? Any interesting questions? I know I've received plenty of interesting questions. Do you guys want to touch on some of the myths that come up?
Yeah, I can touch on the myths. And a lot of people think that giving their information to the census, that the government will receive that information and essentially find out if they're illegal residents here, or they'll be summoned for jury duty, which is not the case. By law, the census is 100% confidential. Those information, those records, they just ask for your name, race. They don't ask about your citizenship status, nothing like that. So that information is not found out by the census.
So clearly this is very important. I know we've seen a lot of social media blasts and, people are seeing it on Alter Network. They're seeing it all over. But I think this just reinforces how important the census is. When is the exact deadline of the census, and what are the different ways that individuals and households are able to respond to this?
So that's a great question. Our census is roughly 8 days away. Our deadline is September 30th to be exact, and there is multiple avenues to respond, whether that's online, if you have not done so. You can even mail in the document that was sent out earlier this year, and if not, of course, we'd be more than happy. We have a full team of individuals that are happy and friendly to do work with. And again, the census is this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Ninorta, any final statements regarding the census?
Well, you're going to have to fill it out, whether you want to or not. It's required by law that everybody fills out the census. So the deadline is September 30th, like Neenort mentioned. It's very important that you fill it out. If you need help, we're here to help. You can do it online. It's very easy. It takes less than 4 minutes to complete. So very, very simple and easy. And don't forget to check mark some other race and write in Assyrian or Chaldean or Syriac, whichever you prefer.
Perfect. Okay, so let's kind of shift gears now. And I know the organization is also going to help with voter registration at the same time. So tell me why you guys decided to kind of combine the two, and are they equally important? What was the kind of driving force behind that?
Just like the census, it carries a lot of weight. So the one of the biggest reasons why we combined the two individual items, such as a census and voter registration, is that since the process is so closely correlated, and of course, our deadline to register to vote is October 5th, it would be easier to get everybody on board prior to the deadline. And since the deadline for the census is ahead or before the deadline for voter registration, it would only make more sense to have everybody congregate and be able to do two things at the same time if they have not done so already. And again, it's at the drive. It's at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. off of the 51st and the 101. And again, our early voting is starting on October 7th through October 30th.
Yeah, I think that's really, I think you guys are doing it's very imperative that we're doing this. We have a lot of elderly in the community who are not tech savvy, who are not able to log onto the internet and do this. They might not feel comfortable opening their doors to strangers who are, helping out with the census, for example. So this is a nice little combination for all of them. And obviously we're in the times of COVID. So feel free. Will be wearing masks, following CDC guidelines. So I hope that doesn't really deter people from coming and partaking and filling out the necessary information. Ninorta and Ninorta, thank you both so much for joining me today. You guys are doing such a great thing here in Arizona, and I really hope a lot of people take advantage of this. I mean, you guys are dedicating your time. You both work, you have hobbies, but to take time off on a Saturday and really, lead this drive is very, very important. I hope a lot of people take advantage of it. Do you guys have any closing thoughts, comments, anything you'd like to mention before we end the segment today?
Sure. I'd like to add one last thing. Again, the census is every 10 years. This is our opportunity to shine as a community. And if we can make a difference today, our efforts will bear fruit, hopefully before 10 years or the next decade, when we have an opportunity again to count ourselves. So please go out there, do what you can for the community. Just do your part and get counted.
100% agree with Neenort as well. It's very important that we all fill out the census, and because it comes every 10 years, so that's a long time to wait to get counted again. But this isn't just an effort in Arizona. This is all states. We've actually teamed up with several other organizations, Assyrian organizations within the U.S. to share the same news, spread the same word about checkmarking other and writing in Assyrian, writing in Chaldean, writing in Syriac. So that's the main goal here, and that's the message that we're trying to cut across. So you can either see us on Saturday. We'll be happy to help you fill out your forms, or you can do it online, or visit your local organization, whichever state you reside in. They'll be more than happy to assist you as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both again. I really appreciate it, and great work.
Thank you, Samaria.
Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. This concludes our segment here on Shamira Media. Again, my name is Samaria Hermiz, and we hope to see you on the next show.